Hello and welcome to Lamplighter. Today is December 24. Today in our daily Bible reading, we continue to read from the book of Hebrews. And I want to remind you of some things that we said yesterday, and that is that this book, even though there are many mysterious questions about it, such as who is the author, it's not real clear. One thing that is clear is that the recipients of this letter are Jewish Christians who are being persecuted. And these Jewish Christians are wondering if they shouldn't accept the advice of some of their earlier fathers and ancestors, saying to them, just go back to the old ways. Just go back to the ways of Judaism. It was easier. You didn't have all of this persecution. And many of them are wondering if this newfound faith in Jesus Christ is worth all of the price it's costing them with regard to suffering, pain, and persecution, sometimes even death to those they love. And so as the writer is writing these words of exhortation, it sometimes reads like fatherly advice to a young person, or even as a sermon trying to challenge and encourage young Christians to keep on keeping on and to be faithful. We saw in yesterday's reading that the writer is talking about Jesus as being superior to angels, to Moses, to Joshua, and so on. Today he continues that theme. Christ is superior to the priesthood. And watch what he does here. When God made his promise long ago to Abraham, since there was no one greater for him to swear by, he swore by himself, saying, I will surely bless you and give you many descendants. And so after waiting patiently, Abraham received what was promised. Now, why does he go back to Abraham? Because he's writing to Jewish people. And Abraham is considered the father of the Jewish nation. They traced all their lineage back to him. And so he is a very important person. So the writer traces back to Abraham, reminding these Hebrew Christians of their heritage, but also how God is still in control as he was way back then. Because God wanted to make the unchanging nature of his purpose very clear to the heirs of what was promised, he confirmed it with an oath. God did this so that by two unchangeable things in which it is impossible for God to lie, we who have fled to take hold of the hope offered to us may be greatly encouraged. We have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure. It enters the inner sanctuary behind the curtain where Jesus, who went before us, has entered on our behalf. He has become a high priest forever in the order of Melchizedek. Now, what follows is some difficult reading about Melchizedek, because Melchizedek, even back during the time of Abraham, when we first read about him, is a very unusual character. He is the king of Salem. Abraham meets him on a journey, and Abraham offers him a tithe. He offers him a tenth of his possessions. And yet, one of the things that's describing of Melchizedek, even back in Genesis, is that he has no beginning or end, which simply means his genealogy is unknown. And so the Hebrews writer is going to skillfully use that little tidbit to say that Christ is even superior to Melchizedek, and he's a priest in the order of Melchizedek, unlike Aaron, because Aaron was the father of a long line of priests who were fallible, who were sinful, who had to offer sacrifices for their own sins and then offer sacrifices for the people. Melchizedek, and oh, by the way, any descendant of Aaron was going to die. But it's as though the mysterious nature of Melchizedek is accentuated here because his genealogy, his beginning and his end is unclear, is unknown. And so the writer uses that mysterious idea of Melchizedek to say Jesus is a high priest like Melchizedek. He has no beginning, no end. He reigns forever. He does not die. He is forever a priest. He's always available, making the way through the curtain, through that torn veil, into the Holy of Holies, into that inner sanctuary, into the very presence of God. And he's always always going to the Father and interceding with the Father on our behalf. So he has this superior priesthood. If perfection could have been attained through the Levitical priesthood, for on the basis of it the law was given to the people, why was there still need for another priest to come, one in the order of Melchizedek, not in the order of Aaron? And again, the writer quotes from the Old Testament saying, "You are a priest forever in the order of Melchizedek." The former regulation is set aside because it is weak and useless, for the law made nothing perfect, and a better hope is introduced by which we draw near to God. You'll notice, if you read carefully through the book of Hebrews, that one of the themes is simply this idea of better. Because Jesus came along, he's better than the angels. He's better than Moses. He's better than Joshua. He is a better high priest. He is a superior high priest. He is a perfect high priest. And then we start to read about how the priest would offer sacrifices in the tabernacle. And by the way, the reader here reminds us that when Moses is building the tabernacle, he does everything exactly as God had specified it to be done in the instructions given to Moses on Mount Sinai. You may remember long ago when we were reading in the Old Testament, we emphasized the fact that Moses did everything in the very specific detail of building the tabernacle exactly as God prescribed. Now, why was that so detailed? Why was that reading so tedious? Why was God so meticulous in the instructions? Because that tabernacle is temporary that Moses is building, but it is patterned after a greater, a better, a more perfect tabernacle in heaven. One in which Jesus reigns as high priest, one that is never going away, one that is not temporary. And for this reason, then, Christ's covenant is greater. Christ's service as priest is better. Here's what Jeremiah said, and this is quoted by the Hebrews writer. God found fault with the people, not with the law, but with the people's keeping of that old covenant. And so God said, through Jeremiah, "The time is coming, declares the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. It will not be like the covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. It will not be like the covenant I made with their forefathers when I took them by the hand to take them out of Egypt, because they did not remain faithful to my covenant, and I turned away from them, declares the Lord. This is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel after that time, declares the Lord." Watch this. "I will put my laws in their minds and write them on their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people. I will forgive their wickedness and will remember their sins no more. By calling this covenant new, he has made the first one obsolete, and what is obsolete and aging will soon disappear." So the old covenant had its place. It was designed to lead people closer to God. It was designed to cause people to see the law and to recognize how far short they fell of being able to keep that law, to realize they could not be righteous as defined by the law. Their only hope was to lean upon God, to depend upon God for his strength. And yet the people did just the opposite. In many ways, they used the law as a way to defend their own self-righteousness. And they began to see the law as kind of a checklist. And that's why God says, it's not the law that was the problem, it was the people's interpretation of it. So I'm giving a new law. Through Jesus, it is a law that's no longer on stone. It's written on people's hearts. And now the ultimate sacrifice has been made. Jesus is the ultimate high priest. He is the one who makes atonement for the people. He offers himself as the sacrifice for their sins. He has validated a new covenant with his blood, and his blood makes it possible for all believers, all respondents who come to God in obedience and humility to find access to him through the blood of Christ. It's a great story. Isn't it great to be a lamplighter? His word is a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. I hope you have a blessed day.